Hey, everybody, before we start the show, I wanted to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond are, of course, the official digital toolset and game companion for Dungeons and Dragons. And they have a lot of awesome stuff that you should check out. Right now, it is a scary time in the world. A lot of people are trying to stay inside as much as they can. D&D Beyond can help you up your digital game totally for free. All of the basic rules are on there. You can build characters, and guess what? Right now, they are giving away a free adventure. That adventure is something that I wrote. It's a part of the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. It is called Frozen Sick, and as a heads up, it does deal with illness, but you could change the illness to poison or a magical curse or something else if you don't want to deal with that right now. Totally understandable given everything that's going on right now in the world with the epidemic and the coronavirus. So, go to dndbeyond.com right now. You can check it out. You can get that adventure Frozen Sick for free. And guess what? Then you can play it online over Skype or Zoom or whatever. And hey, it's something that came from my brain and the brain of Matt Mercer and Joey Hake and Chris Lockey and Hannah Rose and Devin Rue and a bunch of other awesome creators. So go check it out, dndbeyond.com. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcasso. Today on the show, I am chatting with Georg Mir. Georg is a game designer, and they are one of the best. Mitchtum, Fluffy Adventures, an adventure in which you play a hamster character and have a wonderful time going on adventures, was the brainchild of Georg. We talk a lot about designing games and relationships and all kinds of things. We get deep in this episode. It is wonderful and heartwarming. Georg is an amazing guest. Go check out their stuff. Check out Mitchtum. They are just great. And it was great to have them on the podcast. So here is my interview with Georg. Okay, everybody. Now I'm here with one of my favorite game designers, Georg. For people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Hi, my name is Georg, and I call myself a queer Care Bear sort of thing. That's because I like compassion and gentleness and helping other people, and that's sort of my gender as well. That's because I think I. It sounds probably a bit weird, but I don't see myself as male anymore. So I'm trans, and that's caused a few interesting things in the past because it changed a lot of my the way I think about problems and solutions now, because I see a lot of it is cultural, and I'm trying to improve the general community through the giving away stuff and sharing space and amplifying voices and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of really amazing work in the community in addition to making fun games and being welcoming to new people. And I'm excited to talk with you. This has been a long time coming. What have you made that people might recognize in the community?
So the most known and the thing I published first in English was Michtim Fluffy Adventures. It's I call it's the hamster punk game. That that means imagine a bit. It's like cyberpunk, but in a fairy tale kind of way, with fluffy animals that go on heists, on missions to sabotage big corporations that mess up the environment and exploit people, and they're trying to make the world a better place. And that's one thing I wanted to have for kids, because I know we all like going into dungeons and slaying stuff and taking their things, but I was like, maybe we can teach people to do stuff that's actually meaningfully helping grow consciousness about the environment and about the need to like look after each other and stuff like that. So it's a heartwarming game. For some that know the term in Japanese is honobono, or however it's pronounced. I don't speak Japanese, sadly. Um, but it's a heartwarming game, so you have like it's not always about violence or something. I'm not opposed to violence because it's a thing that's quite natural and a part of our universe and life and society. But I think we should be more conscious about it.
On the surface, right, it looks like this fun game, which it is, where you play hamsters, which is like that is all part of this experience, and it is great fun. But it is so much deeper than that, too. There's a lot more going on, and like you said, there are lessons that you can take from the game, which I think are really fun. Why did you want to use hamsters? What was the inspiration there?
Okay. Well, that's weird actually because like in 2008 I met my boyfriend and like we moved in on the first date.
Wow, wow,
So
that
like
is bold.
yes, I drove over to his place at 4 in the morning, and it was supposed to be like a one-time thing, but it instantly clicked with both of us. So yeah, he, next day he asked, "Do you want to come again?" And that happened like 6 or 7 times, and then I like confessed to him that I told my friends that I have a boyfriend, and he was like, "Oh my god, yes, thank you. I want to be together with you too." And we're together for almost 12 years now. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And I had to go to Turkey, to Istanbul, in 2008, and it was quite hard on our relationship to be apart because we're like super close. Um, I mean, a psychiatrist once attested us that we diagnosed us as symbiotic,
Wow.
and yeah, he was like very opposed to the idea that people can be that close. But I think that's good as long as it's not really harmful. I mean, to other people and your, I mean,
Mhm.
social life. I never got asked these things when I was together with girls. By the way, it's just like when I'm together with a guy, people assume that it has to look a certain way, and and they were like totally shocked that I was more romantically inclined to be together with him
Huh.
than before. So like, it's weird.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
anyway, sorry, I'm like always going off topic.
Don't be.
And
This is what this
yeah,
show is all about. That's why it's called Babel, right? We go all over the place.
when I was in Turkey, we like invented a sort of language that was like a mishmash of our Slovenian, because like his parents are Slovenian, German, and also what I understood from Turkish stuff. And the word mechtem and michtim came up pretty often, and we were like, yeah, okay, we are michtims. And then we had to think about how do they look. And the first designs were like a lot like raccoons, basically. But when we got a pet hamster that year, and then my whole design like shifted away from that. So they are also like a mishmash of like hamstery with cat features and other animal features. If it looks cute and fluffy and is small, then it's a Michtim, basically. Because like I had professional artwork done for my Starfinder and D&D supplements, and you can totally tell that these look very different from my designs. But there's like a character that's actually it's my character.
Mhm.
uh, it looks like a fox, but without a tail and a hamster-like body, and that's also like a michtim. It's a blend. I love the word mishmash. Actually, do you understand that? Is that a word you
Oh yeah,
recognize?
mishmash
Okay,
is
okay,
definitely a
perfect.
thing we
Because
can
like
talk
it's the
about.
German word. So
Oh, sure.
yes, and I'm always surprised at what kind of Germanisms are understood in English, especially probably from Yiddish. I think
Yes,
it's
yeah.
interesting. Yes.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, and a lot of sometimes things get into our television and stuff like that. So it's always cool to see what has crossed cultures in that respect. One of the things that I love about your product here is that you have multiple versions available, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about the different versions of Mitchdom that people can check out?
Yeah, that's part of the process of me making revised edition. I initially thought like my art sucked and I wanted to like have new art. And when I commissioned a bit art, a few art pieces, and they were like I liked them, but uh, all in all, I think I've lost track of what makes Michtim, and so I I basically transitioned back to my own art. Um, I will probably use new art, but it's much less of a focus now. It's a tough one for me. I spent like a couple $100 on art, and I don't have a lot of money anyway. And right now it's really bad. So I'm trying to get as far as possible with the stuff I can make myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you make different versions available to people, right? So that people can pick up your game for free if they want to be able to play it.
Oh, actually, it's not even a different version. You can get the full game for free. It's already paid for. Like I've received donations. People sent me money directly and asked if I could give away free copies. And that's something that Deep anyway first started on itch.io. Deep anyway started this thing called community copies, and these are like already paid full game copies, digital copies you can just download. You can go to the page right now and click claim reward, and you can get the game for free. I've put a sort of explanation there that says like if you're broke or somehow marginalized, then feel free to take a copy. But actually, I don't want to gatekeep anyone. So if someone doesn't think of themselves as being marginalized, but still wants to check it out, like feel free, take a copy. They've already been paid for. So and if ever they run out, we're going to like up the number again. So I basically like run on donations right now. So I don't rely all that much on sales, to be honest.
Well, I will say, people who look at your game, who are interested, who can afford to pay for it, should, because it is worth every single penny. It is a really, really fun game. How did you come up with the mechanics, the system for this game?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's a blend of so many things. Also, like outside of the tabletop space, um, I took some inspirations from like video games like Zelda and Final Fantasy for the Game Boy and stuff like that. Um, it's it also has a few Shadowrun mechanics in it, like the basic mechanic where you like remove dice from your pool to increase the power level, but also the risk is something that I think Shadowrun Fourth Edition already did in some way. Um, at least I remember it like that, and I used a very similar approach. Like the way of risk reward thing comes from Shadowrun, but it's not like Shadowrun where individual dice generate hits. It's like you add the numbers and try to beat 7, which is reasonably easy with 2 dice. but I ran the numbers through my probability list. I have in my master thesis, there's a huge table that shows that depending on how many bonus or malus markers you have, the probability of a successful dice roll shifts dramatically. So I recently ran the game on stream in German, and I got the feedback from one of the players that the game sucks because if you just have a rating of 1, meaning 1 dice in an emotion, you can't achieve a success. And as I said, that's intentional because you can achieve a success as soon as you get in the mood. So let's say you're a warrior type of character that isn't afraid. They just aren't afraid. It's not their personality. So they can't really hide because they don't understand why they should hide in the first place. So they don't have any chance of success on the roll at first. But if something happens that scares them, they get these mood markers for fear, and which add a +1 to any dice rolls that rely on fear, like hiding. And suddenly there's a chance of success. And if you're very, very afraid, like the maximum is 3, then a chance of success is a 50-50 thing with 1 die. And you also can sell off, if you really want to hide, then you can also sell off fear markers for additional dice. And that's all intentional, and people sometimes don't understand because they expect they have certain expectations, mostly from other games, and I didn't want a game where you can do anything and everything. It should mean something if you build your character that way. It's your choice. You can build a character that can do everything, but they will not be good that much. They won't have high numbers in their skills, so to say. And the problem with that stream was I was using pre-built characters. I have character generation options that rely on cards. So you draw a random card and it gives you an archetype. And these are intentionally very extreme. They have 2 attributes at maximum and 2 at minimum and 1 at 2. That leads to characters that are really good at 1 or 2 things and not much else. And that's okay for a team game, in my opinion. But your mileage may vary. So basically, you can adjust the characters. They should be just guides. And I didn't expect anyone to run into problems, but yeah, it may happen. So yeah, I know people that play the game very differently. They just roll the dice and use the numbers that were rolled to gauge the success, and it's also fine. My game is not this sort of monolith. It's supposed to be hacked and adapted to what you need to have fun. So it has a lot of open gears, stuff that you can change and watch how it affects the game, and that's totally fine by me because there's no how's it called, Adventure League or something like that, where you all have to be on the same page. Anyone that plays the game can hack it and change things, and it's fine.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and then back to the babble.
Leave behind the safety of the Humblewood and travel down the Tangrip coast to the Bay of Palouche, home to both the Kingdom of Den and the Serpent Domain. But neither hold the true power of the bay, for that lies in the sea itself and the pirate lords that call her tides their own. The dread pirate Captain Bluebeak, Tiberius Fang, Kin the Bladeless, and Gabrielle LaFleur, the self-proclaimed pirate queen. each one vying for power over the very tides themselves. But do any of them really have what it takes to hold up the legacy of the briny bulldog? Tune in each week to find out if our little crew has what it takes to stand up to the pirates of the blood-soaked waters. Dark Fortunes is available every Monday on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Set sail for high seas adventure.
Let's get back to the babble. What made you want to build a game that was super hackable and also played the way that you described, where it's you can build a jack of all trades, but it's better to be specialized? What was your idea behind the design? Because I think it works very well.
I had very bad experiences with like Dark Heresy. We were playing a Dark Heresy game, and I did everything in my power to build the character as competent as I could in my field, and still my dice rolling is like accursed. If I were an RPG character, my luck trait would be like 1 or something like that. It's like everything
Gotcha.
breaks down. Everything breaks down in my area. The thing that got me to change the mechanics and to make how do you say it? A low reward, low risk things was like exactly that experience with Dark Heresy, where my character never was able to do the most basic things. Like it was horrifying because like I was sitting there having bad rolls, and my character was not capable of doing anything, and it looked really awful. And in the same game, we had an assassin with super high agility and climbing, and they fell off a tree, and hurt themselves. It's a strange way of. I think that game also works. You just need to like be aware that you need to give away bonuses so that you can make the rolls easier. And if a game master doesn't know that, then the rolls will fail and everything will be too tough. And that was the most direct reason for me to switch it up and make it easier to like roll 2 or more dice, try to get 7, which is really easy on a d6, and then you got a basic hit, but from there on, a basic hit is just a light wound or jumping over a narrow gap or something like that. And for more greater accomplishments, you have to take risks. But even then, there are mechanics available that will help you. Like if you have a bard in your group, the bard can like inspire an emotion in you, and that can help with rolls. A lot of this philosophy comes from me thinking that players should be like capable, and they should be like set the stage when you play, and they are not your enemy, and they should enjoy themselves. My game master type is like being fan of the characters, the player characters. So that's one of the things that I wanted to get across, basically. I hack all my games. Like there's almost no game that I play that's not hacked in some way. That's just a sort of I don't know thing I do. Like I don't know I don't know if it's pathological. My father thinks so. Like I always hacked stuff. I hacked board games, made new stuff, and my father used to say, "Nothing will ever become of you. You cannot do this. That's not right. You lose all the components." But that's exactly what like drove my career anyway. Like understanding that nothing is like that nothing in game design is sacred, and you should just try stuff, try out what works. And I extend the same courtesy or the same thinking to my own work, where I say like, okay, this might not be always perfect, so maybe if you I rely on the game master to know when to call for rolls or when to when to adjust things. And yeah, I don't know if that's maybe not perfect, but that's just the way it is for me. I wanted to make the gears visible for people that have this cool character idea, but don't find the mechanics to like create that. So maybe they want to reskin something that's already there. Like you can build a summoner from the machinist, or you can build a ninja from the sorcerer, and it still works. So like that's just like reskinning, but you can also easily create new callings, and that's one of the biggest things is like synergies, where you take two callings and combine them. I just have like 6 examples in the book, and there are are like 144 combinations, or half as much. I think 72 combinations that are unique. Like if you combine sorcerer and cook, then you're an alchemist, and your uh, cook ability changes. Like usually you just create one meal, and players can carry one meal with them and use that. But if you're an alchemist, then you create potions, and potions are like a lot smaller, like elixirs, and you can suddenly carry 3 of them. And if you're a witch and cook, then your products, like your food or your potions, last almost indefinitely, a year and a day. And that's all like benefits that uh, come up with combining ideas from the callings. And I want people to like get creative with that, because like I played a lot of Mage the Ascension and stuff like that, and I really like games that just enable creativity and messing around with the world. And yeah, that's something I really care about a lot. So
That's very cool. And you've done some other interesting things. You've done, like you mentioned earlier, you've done some D&D work, you've done some Starfinder work. You brought Mitchdom into 5e.
there was once there's a story I want to tell, like about D&D Beyond. Like they opened up the race creation for third party stuff, so you could like homebrew races. And one of the first things I did was like make Michtim available for D&D Beyond, and someone reported me. They reported me, it got taken down. I got like some sort of warning that I use copyright. I copyright infringed basically, and I was like, "Hey, dudes, this is me. This is my stuff."
Yeah, you own the
And
copyright.
yeah, and I mean, everyone was super kind after that. Like, I don't know if Todd Kenrick messaged me back then, but they were all like super sorry for this, and it's back up again. But there's one thing I don't like, and that's there were some problems obviously with the art for users on D&D Beyond. Like maybe people used copyrighted art, or I don't know, art that isn't that's explicit or something. And so they deactivated all the art, and that's really sad, because like I got that artwork done specifically for D&D Beyond, and I made screenshots like, why doesn't it look like that? Because on my display there's the beautiful art next to it, and it makes a lot of sense to have art with it. But obviously some bad actors like messed it up for everyone. So yeah. And if I were in charge, I would have probably included a step where you have to like, where someone looks over it and says this is correct, or is okay, it's not explicit and it's not copyrighted, this art is fine, we can show this approval step. And I understand that that's a lot of work to do, but you could crowdsource that and make that I know how to solve this problem, you know. I make user experience systems and stuff for work, and it's always like it super annoys me if something isn't possible just because there's no one pushing that, there's no one over there that tries to make these things happen. It's easier to just say, no, we don't use art anymore, and that's kind of sad.
You've done then a lot of work on other role-playing games as well. Like you said, you've been hacking from the time you were a kid, and it sounds like game designing and things like that. What was your entry into role-playing games? How did you first start playing them?
That's totally weird. There's this basically a myth going on that everything and everyone is touched by D&D, and that's simply not true. Um, in German, in German areas, it's typically DSA, so das schwarze Auge, the dark eye. That's the first game people play. And in my case, I created a role-playing game from Final Fantasy for the Game Boy. I think in America it's called Saga or something like that. It's a Game Boy game, and there were like manuals, and the manuals like they totally inspired me, and I made a game from dice that I, according to my father, ruined with drawings. Um, and I played that with my friends, all of whom were girls. And it was the first role-playing game we played. It was very weird. It Do you know Masmora, the board game?
I do not.
Okay, it's a board game about dungeon crawling, and it has these dice with action symbols on them, like movement, attack, magic, stuff like that. And that's exactly what I made back then. Like I made a bunch of dice with symbols, and characters could use those symbols for actions, and different characters could use different symbols, and that was the game basically. It's not a it's not a really good game because I was like 12 or something like that, but that was my first experience with tabletop role playing. It would take like 4 years until I went to, we call it technical college. Austria's school system is very different from the American school system, where I met a lot of nerds. It was a school where everyone was like training to become either a programmer or something like commerce and business. And there were a lot of nerds, and uh, they took me in, and I played my first game of D&D, AD&D basically, I think in 1998. And that started a lot because like I instantly wanted to run games, found the fusion rules. They were available for free on the internet. I downloaded all the PDFs, started to get into game design, doing my own hacks, doing my own settings, and yeah, it it, it went pretty well from there on. Like I made a lot of games and even published stuff in German before. Nothing professionally, nothing physical, but I lost most of my old work, which is really sad, because like when I was 17, 18 around, I started playing Vampire the Masquerade, and I always wanted to play gargoyles, and there was this gargoyles TV series that we really loved,
Oh,
and so
sure. Yeah, it's a great
so I
series.
made a booklet in Word basically with all hand drawn stuff. Drew all the characters, wrote different types of gargoyles, and we ran these games a really long time. And at the same time, I also played Ultima Online on a role playing server. Not an official server, but these self-made, hacked and stolen servers basically. And I was responsible for game mastering stuff and creating setting, and I made all those gargoyle rules basically available for online play. And it was a very wild time, and I miss it a lot because like there's I haven't been able to find a game that allows me to role play online with people as much as that game, because like to get on the server you had to write an application that you had to like prove that you're a role player. It was very weird, and it was all for free, and it was a very creative community, and that also supercharged my motivation to get into games, because like I could instantly get feedback from people who really liked the stuff I was making, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that is great. That's really, really good to be part of a community like that. Speaking of community, at the start of the show, you had said you want to bring change to the community that we're in, the tabletop role playing game community. What kind of change do you want to bring about, and how are you doing that?
Okay. Um, I think there's a lot of very talented new designers out there. I have so many friends in the Philippines, for example, that are like Temporal Hiccup is a friend. They are doing amazing work. It's interesting to like see how people from different cultures and different lived experiences understand the whole hobby very differently from the normal cis hetero white male perspective, and they bring so much to the table, in my opinion, and I try to amplify that. And honestly, it's mostly amplifying and not my own. It's not stuff I do personally. It's more like giving platform to people that need it, because like I still see that they are all struggling to get followers and get attention, and occasionally we're having like these problems where we're having these all of these harmful discussions about gatekeeping and how do you say, elitism. um, it's a very interesting topic, to but I've been running into arguments with people online about how we are trying to make role playing accessible to people, and we don't want to hear those excuses that D&D is so much easier to get into and easier to access, because that's simply not true. It costs a lot of money, and the only thing that it really has is like availability. Like you get D&D groups really easily, because like it's streamed and people know it and people will ask for it and play it. And um, in our space here in Austria, it's very different, because like D&D is not part of we don't have it like in Target. We don't have Target, but we don't have it like in normal shops. It's something that only friendly local game stores have. It's no difference, if you walk into the friendly local game store, you can get any game that's there. So there's not even this structural benefit. So I think in Austria this topic is not as prevalent, because people are more willing to play games that are not D&D. But I see it a lot in online spaces, especially in America. It's interesting that we always have to fight about stuff. We have to fight about attention all of the time, and people feel super attacked. I don't understand. I just can't relate. I don't think that that anyone is shaming D&D, because like it's an okay game. It's good. I like it. I play D&D. I mean, I build characters all the time. I like it. I like 5e a lot more than the previous editions, although I also liked 4e for different reasons. Um, if you saw my Path of the Chosen designs, the card-based role-playing game stuff is in part inspired by 4e, because like 4e had this interesting way of like separating sources, like arcane, divine, primal, martial, and roles. And that's something I wanted to bring to a role-playing game, like just saying okay, you can build a character any way you want, and if you want to play an arcane healer, you can do that. Just combine those two things, and you're done. Perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting, especially culturally, right? Like you said, I think here, going into game stores, a lot of them only carry D&D. They're not even able to sell a lot of other games. So it does get interesting when you're looking for people to play with, right? But I do think that with all these new people who have come into the hobby, many of them through D&D because of Critical Role or what else, I do think you're going to see them start to go for other games soon because, the D&D is fun, but there's a whole world out there, and they start to think, well, wait, there's a game where I can be a hamster? Hang on, let me try that out, or there's a game where I can be a superhero or whatever it is. And I think we'll see more people continuing to branch out, which I think is a great thing. More people playing different role playing games is good for everybody, especially small creators who are making great games like yourself. I think people are missing out if they love role playing games and don't get a chance to check out something beyond D&D, and have the means to, especially with so many things being cheap and free.
I mean, there's a lot of I see a lot of criticism of Critical Role all the time. It's I don't know. It's so weird. I chimed in a few times and said like, yeah, I would wish they would play my game, and I sent it to them, and I never heard back from them, and I totally understand that, and it's so weird because like I don't want to feel entitled, you know. It's their game and they're doing their stuff, and it's totally fine to like just play D&D there. Um, so I don't understand why we need to be like all that aggressive and hostile all the time. Yeah, but of course I understand that Critical Role said a few times they want to do indie stuff more, and that hasn't happened so far. And besides a few games that I've seen, if you don't want to see them do D&D, then you just don't watch them. I don't know. I have totally given up that they will notice me. So it's I don't know. That was something I really cared about earlier, but I've been so frustrated that I I just wish them well. And occasionally, like, oh, I got unfollowed by someone recently, also a creator I liked, obviously because I spoke positively about Critical Role. So like uh, the divide is very, very strong, I think. And I don't think it should be that way because like, I don't know. I don't think they're doing harm. It's like weird. Why are people so upset? I don't understand that. I also get that it's an attention magnet. I played in a D&D game, and most of the people I played with were into Critical Role, and constantly thought about like doing things the Critical Role way, which got on my nerves really fast because like I don't want it to be normative. They're doing their thing and it's cool, but I don't want to change everything just because they are doing it like that. Do you
Yeah,
know what I
your
mean?
game is your game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Their game is their game.
people don't understand that. Like they don't get it. It's like we gotta do it exactly as them. Like I don't know why. It's fine. I'm a big fan of diversity in all regards, but I'm especially a big fan of like doing your own thing and trying to find what works for you. And that's something that's not always possible, maybe because like okay, new people uh, treat everything like the Holy Grail, but that's just because they haven't seen it done any differently. And I don't think that it's the fault of the people that are very visible, that people are like religious. It's like fandom is also mostly toxic. Like, okay, I haven't met any toxic Michtim fans so far, but there are toxic Steven Universe fans, and that basically means like everything can get toxic and problematic. A lot of it has to do with too highly and too strongly identifying with the hobby you're doing, instead of like taking a step back and looking critically at what you're doing and making. So like it's okay for everyone to exist in our space. And to those people that like don't work with us, they just can take their own space. It's okay. I don't need to be in their space. That's what I say. It's like, I don't know. Hope this doesn't sound weird. It's probably.
No, that sounds great. And I think that's a good way of looking at things. We might have different points of view here and there about things like game design, but I do think many people in the community are aligned on like, we want games to be more accessible. We want people to play all kinds of games and that sort of thing. And we might disagree on the approach, right? So you might think one way, another person might think another way, but we all want this community to be the best it can be and welcoming. And just because we disagree doesn't mean we need to be vitriolic or toxic towards one another.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I can't be toxic. I'm super toxic sometimes, and I'm really sorry most of the time, because like something rubs me the wrong way, and my bipolar disorder like cranks everything up to 11, and I see red, and it makes everything really problematic for me, because like I don't have from the character I like have, or personality I have, I want everyone to be in harmony and happy, but also sometimes like it just clicks the wrong way, and then it's something I need to do better myself. So I'm not the one to judge people like that. But I've been also like I've been criticizing like D&D Beyond, for example, when they announced their language supplements, because to me an online resource like D&D Beyond should be language accessible for free. That's really a problem, because on the other hand, I understand that translators have to be paid. I think the way they should be doing it is like have preferred language as something you have in your profile, and if someone makes something available to you, you just give them what language they can speak. So I share a lot of my D&D resources with other people, and so far everything is English. But I know people in my German-speaking community who can't speak English, or not well enough to understand game rules, and like I'm not going to pay to get the German rules. That's just something I can't afford. But it's something that's really a problem, because like if the thing for me is like I'm going to make revised, we're going to finally translate it to German, because like I've been getting a lot of criticism since publishing the game in English. It's very weird. Like everyone is like, why is there no German version? We have a lot more English speaking people in the German communities than German speaking people in the English communities. So that's just I wanted to reach as many people as possible. So for a Kickstarter or something else, crowdfunding, we're going to probably do sometime in the future. We're going to make a German and English version at the same time, and offer digitally. You get both. You get access to both. Like I really believe in this sort of accessibility, although I understand that like translators have to be paid. So it's not that I don't know that, because I worked as translator in the past, and I know that a lot of editing has to be done, and sometimes we have to do a lot of layout when translating.
Yes, absolutely. We are almost out of time here, but before we go, I want to, where can people find you, and what should they do when they find you?
I'm on social media, on Instagram and on Twitter. My Twitter presence is mostly rambling about game design, accessibility, user experience design, and politics, I think. Inclusivity and stuff like that, stuff that like harms my friends and me. And so we talk about it. So that's like at Georg Mir, like my name. But I'm also available on itch.io, like grimogre.itch.io is my itch. I've started that relatively recently. I like the way it handles a lot of things like community copies and being able to redesign the product pages beautifully and stuff like that. So that's why I went to AO. But on the other hand, I still love the support I get from Drive-Thru, from my people over there. So you can also get my stuff on Drive-Thru RPG. And the good thing is Drive-Thru RPG also offers physical copies through print on demand. And I like have cards for the game that I use. That they are optional, but I think they enhance the game a lot.
Well, go check those out. You are an amazing game designer friend and a great person with a big old heart. And I am so glad to be able to talk with you. Thank you for joining me today.
It was a pleasure, and I'm thankful that you like invited me.
That was a great interview with Georg. You know, given everything that is occurring right now, normally I would say, here's my Patreon, here's where you can go for reviews and that kind of thing. But right now, Tabletop Babble is doing pretty well considering everything that's going on right now. And we have some other awesome podcasts on the Don't Split the Podcast Network that you should really check out. Podcasts like Venture Maidens, an actual play that has an all-female and non-binary cast that is just amazing. You could also check out Dames and Dragons, another actual play with an all-female and non-binary cast that is totally different. That's right. You can have two casts of similar gender makeups, and they can be totally different, just like two podcasts that would have all men on them. They are both wonderful and delightful, and you should check them out. Or hey, if you need a great distraction, check out Dark Fortunes, which is an amazing Humblewood actual play. It's new on the network. Or you could check out D&D Brief. Every episode, Samuel Dillon is taking his amazing cast through a D&D adventure, and then they talk about it afterwards. They talk about D&D. It's a really cool lesson in, hey, here's a fun actual play with a behind-the-scenes kind of breakdown afterwards. Do you like Star Wars? You know what? You want to check out one of the best Star Wars stories on the internet? We have it right here on Don't Split the Podcast Network. Redemption. Go check that podcast out. If you like Tabletop Babble, you'll love the DM's Deep Dive, the Behold Her podcast, and Total Party Thrill. These are all great podcasts and more that you can go check out at don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com. You can also check out an actual play that I DM with players Rudy Basso, TK Johnson, Lauren Urban, and Robert Aducci on The Demon Plague. Go check that out. Right now, we're all still making podcasts because we want entertainment to come to you so that you have a great thing to look forward to in these trying times. Don't forget that out there right now, it can be scary and it can be difficult. So lean on each other. Let us try to entertain you during these times. And remember to be kind to everyone that you can out there right now. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. I'm on Twitter at James Intricasso, and you all know about worldbuilderblog.com. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music was provided by Battle Bards. Don't forget RPGs. I like sex. Hey everybody, before we go, I wanted to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble was brought to you by Kobold Press. Kobold Press has the Warlock Patreon. That's right. For as little as $1 a month, you can get all kinds of dark fantasy 5th edition content through the Warlock Patreon. I'm talking about player options, monsters, magic items, and more. For $3 a month, you can get awesome Warlock lairs, short adventures by some of the industry's best, like DSPN's own Celeste Conowitch from Venture Maidens. For $5, you can get the zine in print, every single issue. You'll want that for these awesome new halfling zine covers that they have. Find out more at patreon.com/koboldpress. That's the Warlock Patreon at patreon.com/koboldpress. Tell them DSPN sent you.